if we put this logo up next to our logo, these diehard fans are going to be all in with us.
But the thing that I think isn't talked about enough is the earned media, the viral conversations.
So I knew the NIL train was coming. I think our first deal was for $5,000. We got about $800,000 worth of free media.
Welcome to Personal Injury Mastermind. I'm your host, Chris Stryer, founder and CEO of Rankings.io, the no excuses, no BS legal marketing agency that works harder than competition. Each week, you get insights and wisdom from some of the best in the industry. Hit that follow button so that you never miss an episode. All right, let's dive in. Today, we take an inside look at one of the nation's leading personal injury law firms. I'm thrilled to welcome Dan Morgan, partner at Morgan & Morgan, to share their story behind their explosive growth. With over 700 attorneys across the country, Morgan & Morgan has recovered over $15 billion for their clients. So how did they go from a single state practice to a nationwide powerhouse? Daniel pulls back the curtain on their strategic decisions, marketing tactics, and intake processes that fueled their growth. He provides valuable insights on how to transform a firm no matter the size. This is an exclusive masterclass in accelerating growth from a firm that has perfected it. Dan shares the secrets to their dominance in the PI space. Learn from a leader of one of the most successful personal injury law firms in America. Here's Dan Morgan, partner at Morgan & Morgan.
Well, yeah, my first legal job was a call center later on in high school. But I always tell people, I feel like I learned more in those summers and weekends and afternoons in that call center than I probably did, especially my third year of law school when, a lot of the course materials were kind of deviated away to like the basic stuff. But I mean, especially for like Morgan & Morgan, you're fielding so many different types of cases that you're really learning that case criteria. So you're figuring out, this med-mal case might be a case in Florida, it's not one in California, or this case has exponentially more value because of the states that it happened in, or if this would have happened in, say, Philadelphia, we would be taking it since it happened. The same exact fact patterns happened in Orlando, we're not taking it, or vice versa. And obviously stuff's always flying around too, laws are changing and statutes are happening where all of a sudden cases that we were taking on Friday, we're now back on Monday. And now we're either not taking those cases or referring those cases out. So definitely a lot of that, the kind of legal stuff as far as the facts of a case, yes or no. And then really just talking to people. I mean, a lot of times you got, depending on the clients that are calling in, you got all sorts of people that are calling in, and some want to talk for hours and you be their therapist. So a lot of that, just those people skills and being able to talk to everybody definitely was improved from my time in the call center.
You had another unique experience in law school. You worked with Mark Cuban.
I did, yeah.
Tell me about that experience. What was that?
Yeah, so I 1L year of law school. There was a fundraiser for Barack Obama during the All-Star Weekend in Orlando. I was at Vince Carter's house, who lives in Orlando. My dad knows Vince for a while. Vince went to Daytona Beach High School, and he's been around the community forever. So
North Carolina, yeah.
Exactly, yep. So he so he invited me and my brothers over to the event, and there was a bunch of different stars there, like Magic Johnson and David Stern and Chris Paul. And Mark Cuban at the time, Vince was playing for the Mavs. So Mark was there. He was actually guest bartending for like an hour or something as like part of like the promotion. Like Mark Cuban, he loves to bartend. So he was bartending and he asked me, like, what are you doing here? Like, you're the youngest kid in here by far. Like, what's the deal? Like, oh, I'm a local kid. My dad's an attorney in town. We kind of bundle some money fundraising wise. And he asked me, he's like, well, all these guys said they're going home after this. Do you have any plans tonight? I was like, yeah, I'm going. It was Marcus Jordan, Michael Jordan's son, played at UCF basketball at the time. It was his, I think, 21st birthday. So my buddy's opening a club tonight and Marcus Jordan's turning 21. I'm going to go over there. And Mark's like, I hate to be that old guy, but can I roll with you? And I was, yeah, absolutely. Say less. So we hung out that night, and then I just kind of started pestering him that I wanted to intern for him, work for him. So he finally did hire me. A lot of my time was spent kind of, once a Shark Tank deal goes through, they didn't have a time of due diligence to kind of poke holes, see if the guys on the show were telling the truth about certain things, or if the patents were legitimate, or were they still in process. That was kind of my job to begin with, was vetting these companies, and it was fun dealing with the owners and seeing if it was approved or not. And then towards the end of it, I had a buddy that was a free agent with the Houston Rockets, Chandler Parsons. So slowly my internship started turning into, well, how do we get Chandler to the Mavs? And he ended up signing with the Mavs that off season. And then the following year, I got a job with Chandler's agent. So it was definitely a fun time. Ended up the end of the summer, and we ended up taking Mark's G5 to Vegas with Dirk Nowitzki and Chandler and Michael Finley and a few other guys. So it was a great time.
Those are just all heavy hitters. That's such an awesome experience. You probably were thinking, well, hell, I had this plan of this trajectory, and you're kind of getting pulled over to this other one.
Oh, no, yeah, for sure. I mean, coming up, my dad always says that I went to law school under duress. It wasn't my first choice. When I was kind of coming out of college, I had, like I said, buddies that were playing basketball in Florida. I had another buddy, Vern, get drafted to the Pistons. Chandler got drafted to the Rockets, other guys in the pipeline. And I was trying to go be a sports manager agent. Got into law school actually in Houston, where he was. My dad's like, absolutely not. You'll fail out. You're coming back. And then I got in Stetson. That's where I ended up going. And then when I also got into Stetson, I was like, I also got into Miami. I was like, I think I'm gonna go to Miami. He's like, no, you're not. You're gonna fail out of there. You'll be in South Beach half the time. So I ended up doing my law school over in St. Pete and then having awesome internships during the summer to kind of fill that void.
Morgan & Morgan has grown into one of the biggest personal injury law firms in the country. Dan's uncle Tim ran the call center and made it into what it is today. Tim had a simple motto for success: hook it and book it. He wanted to sign up on that first call. Though it could come off as aggressive, it's hard to argue with the results. Dan takes us behind the scenes of one of the most successful call centers in the nation.
Our call center now, as far as total employees, is definitely north of 500, probably scaling towards 1,000 somewhat quickly. Yeah, I mean, last year I think we did over 2.5 million phone calls. We fielded. So a lot of it's here. When I started in the call center back, that was 17 years ago or so now. It was about half a floor of our downtown office building with probably 45 to 50 agents. My Uncle Tim, the Cobra leader, was behind the desk and running it. And we had our floor supervisor say there's a close call. Hey, what's the state? What's the facts? I think it could be signed up. I don't think it could. You kind of go to them and make a quick decision, and then it kind of keeps elevating it up. Now there's so much layered management. We have different teams and different focus areas and practice types, where if it's a Social Security case, you're getting piped right to the Social Security intake department. We do take advantage of some offshore services, especially with Spanish-speaking clients, where if it's a Spanish speaker and our call wait time that's longer than 30 seconds, we can get them over to an outsource that speaks the language, and we're not, waiting for that. Hooking and booking, we have a kind of a firm policy that if you're missing that, if there's more than a 30 second to a minute queue and that person hangs up, most likely they're not hanging up and calling back in 30 minutes when the queue times are bad. Most likely they're hanging up and going to the next line on Google or the next recommendation they got from their Facebook friends. So the whole hook and booking philosophy is really, if you're hanging up on the client, or if you're saying, hey, I think this might be a case, we'll call you back in 30 minutes and let you know. Most likely that client's gone forever. He would say it'd be like you're deep sea fishing and you pull in a marlin, and right before it gets to the boat, you say, you know what, I'm going to unhook that. I'll catch that same fish in about 30 minutes from now and go from there. Like, no, once you get that fish off the hook, it's gone forever. So it's kind of that same mentality with cases. It is all 24/7. Even now we have call agents that are able to work from home, so they can plug in right there at their laptop and start fielding calls. So they might be part-time. Hey, I got 2 hours to kill right now. They can log onto our systems and kind of plug and play, and they have their scripts there, constantly just trying to improve it, from whether it be our referral flow or our non-practice areas, just improving that experience. So Angie Fleury, she's our the boss over there. She does an incredible job of keeping that thing so efficient and running. There's definitely a culture down there of, hey, we strive to be the best. We want to give the best service. They are the front lines. They're the first people that when you call Morgan, they're dealing with. So they really, the agents themselves are also, they definitely have pride in it, which is, goes a long way. And finding rogue operators. I mean, we find people all the time, it could just be someone that's angry that day and they're just pressing call disconnect halfway through a call because they're done doing a sign up and it's a qualified case. So having layered management to check, why is agent A have an average call time of 2 minutes and everyone else is at 5.5 minutes? Let's go pull her calls. Oh, something's going on. Her phone's not, there's a manual disconnect going on. Just stuff like that. So always having systems in place to be able to canvas and make sure it's being run efficiently.
There's so many intricacies to it because of the different practice areas, because of the different geography, and then data. And I believe you guys are using Litify for the CRM stuff. And that's having, I guess, a huge impact on the just overall kind of breaking down those communication silos when it comes into the delivery side. Would that be fair?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And just having, being cloud-based now, when I was back in the call center we were on, I think it was called Captora, which some of your listeners might be on. It's kind of a pre-inventory, like an intake software type of deal. But then you have to take the information from Captora and hard transfer it over to your other software. So you're inputting and exporting. Well, now with the cloud base, you can do an intake and just send that intake right over to our attorneys. And now we have it set up where, say it's a Montana case and we're not bootsing on the ground in Montana, we can take that SIM intake, ship it out to a qualified partner in their Montana offices for a referral type situation, and then be able to monitor that case. All right, they have it. Here's what's going on with it. There's a policy, it's been demanded. Clients treating. All right, there's a mediation set. So really giving you that oversight into seeing it all. But I definitely say the technology's come so far. Yeah, back in the day, it'd be like, oh wait, Captora has a hardwire malfunction. We're off Captora for the day. Now we have 40 agents in the call center with notepads and papers, taking down phone numbers and calling fact descriptions and this, that, and the other thing. Where definitely be some nightmares sometimes. Or the guy's flying in to fix the software. He'll be here on Tuesday. So we're going old school until then. You're like, what? Now you got some brainiac in Brooklyn that can type code and then you're back up and running in 3 minutes.
Some larger firms, I talked to Mike Morse, where he kind of operates in a pod, right? You got an attorney, you got a paralegal, you got a staff person. Are you guys more top down, where you got your attorneys in one silo, then paralegals? Like, what do you feel is most conducive for scale? What would you say there in terms of operations and delivery?
Yeah, so I mean, we've definitely, we were definitely pod driven for a while. It'd be a lawyer, 3 case managers, and a paralegal, with an attorney on average handling anywhere from 200 to 400 cases, depending on caseloads and severity. Obviously, if they have super complex commercial litigation, trucks, like semi-truck accidents, they're going to have a smaller inventory. And if they have, a bunch of low impact, no property damage type cases, they might have a higher bandwidth. But it was kind of, you have your case managers around 75 cases each, and then about somewhere around the same in a litigation inventory with the paralegal. So that was, Morgan & Morgan from 1988 through probably like 2021, 2022. During the processes, there's been some segmentation of it as well, where before a personal injury attorney would handle everything from auto accidents to dog bites to slip and falls to product liability cases, et cetera, where those have all been segmented out now. So if you're an auto attorney, you're only handling auto accident cases. If you're a premise attorney, you're only handling premise cases. If a major truck crash happens, that insurance company has their safety expert at that crash that night to get all the documentation, get all the evidence. Sometimes you have lawyers that are getting into that truck 2 weeks, a month later, or they're doing reenactments or reconstructions, and now you're kind of a step behind. So just specializing in segmenting out those different branches, we've seen a lot of just higher fees in those, especially for premises. Because before you'd have an attorney, a lot of work goes to premise cases, and especially the initial 3 days, and not as much goes into the auto accidents. So attorneys would kind of be lazy with these premise cases because they were being lazy with the auto cases, and now they'd realize, well, now a month's gone by, I don't have what I needed, and now the case is kaput. So now that we have these like SEAL Team 6 lawyers that they get these cases, they're getting the spoliation out, they know what to do. There's investigators, they're taking pictures, they're proving it was there for this long, they're putting people on notice. And now our highest average fees in our firm now are premise liability fees, where before, that was the bottom rung. And now after 3 or 4 years of this program, people are fighting to get into our premise department because normally there's no policy issues. In an auto accident in Florida, there's a good chance it's a 10K policy or no policy, or there's some type of limitations there. And a lot of these premise cases are negligent security cases. You're going against corporations that have millions and tens of millions of umbrella coverages and things of that nature, where there's never that problem of, sorry, there's no coverage for treatment. There's no one to go after. There's always kind of someone that you can hold accountable for those cases. And then going on to where we kind of are going to now, we still have kind of a mix. We still obviously have pods that are running. We have different high value pods that, those guys might have 50 cases, but they still have the same support staff. But now we're also trying to segment out pre-suit versus litigation and kind of making sure that pre-suit is just streamlined, where you might not, you might be one of our junior attorneys and you're only doing pre-suit litigation for your first 2-3 years. And then you kind of would get promoted to a litigation role. And then in that regards to, you still have maybe 5 attorneys in litigation and then a managing attorney over those 5 attorneys. So it's kind of a pod of attorneys now. And those same attorneys have their own mini pods underneath them.
So it helps with career pathing, right? You got your 500 intake, you got different levels for the intake. You got career pathing not only from an attorney perspective where you're litigating, maybe it's the actual practice area. You start out and maybe it is auto and you want to go to premises.
And that happens a lot. I mean, my dad always calls it being able to know like coaching in positions where, hey, you might think you're a great pitcher and you've always been a pitcher your whole life, but I hate to tell you, you're a third baseman and we're going to move you over to the hot corner and that's where you're going to be. And they kind of moan at first and all of a sudden they go over there and they're doubling their fees after a year and they're loving life a lot more. They're not miserable, but they kind of had that in their head that, no, I am the trial guy. I'm the guy that does the closing statements. But it's like, no, you've lost your last 5 trials. You're going to be the guy that's doing all the workup. You know how to take a depot better than anyone else. You're going to go do all the expert depots. And the next thing you know, they're off and running. With the internship program, that's really what it kind of came out of was, we had such a great need to hire. Just the cases were coming in and we didn't have the attorneys to fill it. And you go and try to hire an insurance defense attorney. That's kind of where we would always, that's kind of my dad's old model was don't hire someone out of law school. Let them go do defense work or be a prosecutor or a state defender for 3-4 years, learn how to try a case, learn how to be a professional, and then we can move them in. They then apply to us after 3 years, 4 years experience, where now what we've seen is just one, the amount that we have to hire makes it very tough because you don't have those, maybe you could snag one great insurance attorney every, year or so, as some firms do. But when you're trying to hire 5-6 attorneys in one city at the same time, it gets a lot harder. And now a lot of these insurance defense firms too, they're just like, oh, it's Morgan & Morgan. We have cases against them. Conflicts waived. Or we're not waiving conflicts. You're no longer allowed to go there. So we have all these attorneys that want to come work for us, but are stuck at some of these other defense firms that I won't name. And also the insurance defense lawyers that do come kind of have all these preconceived notions of case values or, these clients, these clients are all frauds. They don't know what, you guys are just drumming up cases. And they come in, we call them Kool-Aid drinkers around Morgan & Morgan, but they come in drinking that Kool-Aid for 3-4 years where they see a herniation with injection case and they're like, it's a $100K policy. And they're like, well, that case is worth 60,000. Like, what are you talking about? That person needs to get injections. They're getting needles stuck in their back because this car ran into them. We want the full policy. And you're having these internal struggles with lawyers that they think they know what values are worth. And we're showing them on this same exact fact pattern, we went and got a verdict of $1.2 million and you're trying to settle this case for 60,000. So there's a lot of that making them become believers in their cases. My dad says, if you don't believe in the case, your clients won at the ultimate disadvantage, but the firm's obviously at a disadvantage too, because you got people that are rowing in the different directions. So when you're able to go to these and get these kids in college to come and work and teach them our way from the beginning and our values and our processes, that they might not be litigating cases their first 3 years, but we have this career path now where they can be an intern for 2 years, then come in, kind of be a junior attorney, paralegal role, research writing, doing memos for a year, then learn the pre-suit of it. And then after 2-3 years, they're starting to get some litigation cases. And in the process too, they're going to trial. I mean, we have third chairs and all that type of stuff. So they're at least getting in there and seeing it. Same like we were saying about the coaching, you might think you want to be a trial attorney and you do your first direct examination and your knees are shaking and your suit coat's sweaty, which happens. Mine was sweaty after my first direct, but I knew after I did it that I loved it. And I wanted to keep doing it, where others are like, I never want to do that again. I want to go do appellate law and write briefs on it.
I imagine too, by structuring it the way you do by your practice area specialties, it also lends itself to marketing too, because speaking on stage at being known as a thought leader in that specific area, as opposed to just being a great litigator, it's like these kind of experts start to develop based upon their specialization.
Oh, exactly. Yeah. And then you get, if you're a mass torts or products liability, then you're getting invited to speak on panels. We have a guy, John Yanchunas, who I think's won every award possible with like class action and multi-district litigation. It's like it's like top lawyer alert. Like, guys, John Yanchunas, like 10 years in a row. So you got these guys that become they're experts in their field, and then when the big cases come in, they're the ones that really are the leaders of it. Obviously, partners and things like that. But if it's a class action decision, John Yanchunas, we kind of defer to him on those decisions, unless it's overwhelmingly groupthink, no, don't do it. But we have a lot of empowering our employees. If this is what you think is the best way to go, as far as resources with cases, even, if you think this expert's what we need and they're expensive, we're not going to, stop you and say, no, you can't spend it. Now, if it's a low property damage auto case with a 10K policy, no, we're probably not going to let you go hire a $20,000 life care planner just because it won't get approved and you're really doing the client a disservice, because when you do get to 10,000, they get nothing. So there are checks and balances we have along those lines. But if it's the right case, it's pre-qualified. We let kind of the lawyers really be entrepreneurial and be their own bosses and call their own shots and run their own staff. and then it's still part of a bigger culture that they know and that they embrace and the firm embraces. So it's been good as we grow, especially in some of these newer markets too. We'll take some of our proven leaders in our established markets like Orlando, Jacksonville, Tampa, Atlanta, and then we'll send them out to our newer markets like Los Angeles and Philly and Boston and St. Louis, so they get that kind of culture infusion.
Seeing the billboard, seeing, TV and radio, and I've heard your dad talk on different podcasts. And when we break this down into marketing, you've got paid, owned, and earned. You got your paid media, that could be TV, could be radio, could be ads, could be whatever. You got your owned, which could be your website and your content. And I've heard, the Google firm. I've, heard these references and your reviews, and you're owned. But the thing that I think isn't talked about enough is the earned media. The viral conversations, the humor, the entertainment. I saw a bus wrap today, Viva Las Vegas. Then I see the shirt off on the beach, or the Benjamin. I know a lot of attorneys, they're like, they'll poke fun, but guess what they're doing? They're talking about it. The media's talking about it. So what is the approach when it comes to like the viral, the earned media to get people talking? How do those conversations go? From the marketing perspective.
So yeah, obviously there's two different types of earned media too. There's that type of earned media where you get people to talk, and then there's the other type that we kind of do a great job of too, which is just PR around big cases and getting that. We have a whole PR team that's one aspect of it, but kind of the more stuff you're talking about. My dad calls being sticky, getting in people's brains and just sticking there. We have these sessions every week. It's 4 of us, or 5 of us actually. Me, my dad, Reuven Moskowitz, who's our COO. Yehuda Applebaum, who's our chief marketing officer, and then Carlos Wiggle, who is our creative director. So it's us 5 every Tuesday from 5 to 6. But it's really just throwing out these different ideas. People pitch different things, and we roundtable it and we kick it around, and then we kind of, it's called the purple cow meeting. That marketing term when people see something and it kind of sticks with them. So yeah, we do them every week. We have these ones going on now where you might have seen them, but we have these billboards with graffiti on them. It says like ambulance chaser and for the money and kind of everything that people say to us. My dad's like, let's just put it on the boards. People are saying it anyway. We'll call ourselves out and people will talk about it. And we had a Twitter post that had 3.5 million people talking about it, and then we were the number 1 page on Reddit for 2 days. So yeah, there's definitely things like that. And now with heavy involvement with the UFC and with NASCAR, and really go into these places where we know the eyeballs are, but no one's really been there before. There's different reasons for that. We're obviously a national law firm, so it makes more sense for us to be on a UFC that's broadcast nationally, whether instead of, say, your number 1 attorney in Detroit, you're making a killing. You still might not want to make the type of investment because you're only going to want to handle the cases that are in Detroit. You might be able to refer some diamonds out as well. Well, we're able to take all those cases in no matter what's coming and find the homes for them. And if we're not handling them, like we're boots on ground in 20 of the 50 states now. So there's a good chance we can handle it. And if not, we have good referral partners that can. So really taking those chances and doing deals like Barstool Sports and some of these other like Theo Vaughn, we've been on him a bunch, and kind of these more comedians and podcast styles. And it's mainly the people to be like, wait, they're here now too. You can't really turn on TV, you go on a drive, you turn your radio on, now you're turning podcasts on, or UFC or NASCAR or baseball games or hockey games. And like, these bastards are here too. So that's kind of the thought, be everywhere for everyone. Here in Orlando, like the common theme around here are just put a guy on a billboard with a big check in our name. And, there's 5 firms that do that same type of advertising down here. And it's kind of press and repeat. So yeah, it's really kind of one, how do we stand away from that? Do a whole campaign about, yeah, they got that, but that was just a settlement. We go to get verdicts and that, but we're like, that's just getting too far in the weeds with people where they're not really understand the difference between a settlement or a verdict. $1 million is $1 million to them. However they get it, they don't care. And we don't want to be another, hey, here's the check. Obviously we have our 15 billion recovered because you lead with a big number and it's impressive, but we're not pushing that out like other firms push out the individual ones. So it's more just brand awareness plays, kind of staying above that, then at the same time knowing that we have those numbers to back it up. And we'll push out verdicts on Instagram and Twitter and social media channels and stuff like that to get it out there so people at least know we're trying cases. But it's not what we lead with. We lead more with what you're talking about, like, hey, get people talking, be memorable, get them as a client, and then just wow them with service and experience, and they'll be customers for life.
Advertising with local sports teams is a great way to connect to your community, but college athletes were off limits until recently. Name, image, and likeness, or NIL, offers fair compensation, financial stability, and educational opportunities for college athletes. And it is changing the game for local legal advertising. The Morgan & Morgan firm saw an opportunity and did not hesitate.
So we were actually the first law firm in America that did an NIL deal. I'm a licensed basketball agent. All that time when I was, as my dad says, fucking around in law school, pretending to be a sports agent, I actually got licensed and have some overseas clients and stuff like that. It's more of a hobby than a career, but it's fun to be around. But in doing so, I knew kind of the path that was coming. You go to these you have to do these seminars with the NBA PA every year. So I knew the NIL train was coming. And I knew, hey, if we're a first mover, kind of back to that earned media thing, even if we just do a deal, we can go, I think our first deal was for $5,000, but we got about $800,000 worth of free media from different newspapers writing about, hey, this player just signed with Morgan & Morgan, NIL deal happened, ESPN and podcasts, we're all picking it up. It was actually a Purple Cow, one of those creative meetings. I pitched it to Purple Cow. We're big in Lexington, Kentucky. That's where my dad's from. He's a Kentucky fan. He knows John Calipari well. So it's kind of a layup, let's go to Kentucky, do a whole team deal. That was kind of the next evolution of we'll do the team with the whole entire team. Now you have these people in Lexington, they eat, sleep, drink Kentucky basketball. Now you have the Kentucky people on commercials and billboards with us saying, call Morgan & Morgan, they're the best, yada, yada. Obviously, there's certain things you have to get approved by the bar. You can't guarantee wins and say they're the best firm and stuff like that. I'm paraphrasing, but just aligning yourself with that brand side by side. And they're like, well, if they're with them, then I'm with them too, because I love all things Kentucky basketball. And if they're supporting my team, then I'm going to support that law firm, because ipso facto, more dollars will then flow to my team and my players. Now, what's happened, though, is I'm not going to say people are copycatting because it's going to be the nature flow, but other people start getting that same space, obviously. And these people are they're treating them like they're pro players. We were able to go in and do deals for, 4 figures, maybe 3,000, 5,000. I think our highest deal we've ever done is for 15,000. That was for a top 3 pick in the draft when he was at Alabama. So, we were able to pretty much say, hey, take our money or don't take our money. We're paying you for, an hour of your time to take pictures with us, a few social media posts. And then we're going to take you and market you all over Tuscaloosa. You're going to be a college athlete with billboards and on buses. What college athlete doesn't want that? So a lot of times the agents would get involved and try to play hardball. No, he wants 7 figures, and you kind of laugh at them and say, see you later. And then the client will call you back hey, can I still get that deal done for the number that you promised? And am I really going to get billboards? So there's a lot of that. But now what does happen is, some firms will come in and will pay a guy $100,000, and then it just muddies what the value is. Because a lot of times too, it could be, hey, this lawyer is a mega booster of Georgia football. So I want to make sure I get a recruit there. So I'll pay this guy $50,000 to be a spokesman for Georgia. Meanwhile, he goes to Georgia. I have him as a spokesperson, 2 birds, 1 stone. Where my dad doesn't care about any of that stuff. He cares about, how much this costs and what are our eyeballs, what's the ROI on this. Big money for some of these players, especially if you average out what they're doing in that scale. But no, it's definitely, I think the way that it's helped us is, one, it shows the people in the community that we're invested with them and with their team. It's aligning us with their team. And then the content we can get around it is just super, hyper local content, So we did one with Grace McCall at our Coastal Carolina. That's just super hyper local. Who's watching that? But all of a sudden, case spikes go up in that county, 25%. There's nothing else to really point to except that one campaign. So we definitely have proof of concept that it works. And then we've replicated it out now where we're the official law firm of the Yankees and of the Phillies and of the Red Sox, because we're hey, if we put this logo up next to our logo, these diehard fans are going to be all in with us.
Yeah, I wonder if does it give you the enemy too?
It does. So we've been very cognizant about that, though. In Lexington and Irving with UK, we have deals with Louisville now too. So yeah, there's definitely some of that as well. Of hey, because you'll go to a different city or something, you're on an away game, and you just saw Morgan & Morgan with Brock Bowers at Georgia. But now you're driving to Arkansas, and this was a layup though. The Arkansas has a football player named John Morgan, so we obviously had to do a deal with him. So we have a deal with him this year. But all of a sudden you're driving over to Georgia and you see John Morgan, the football player, on a Morgan & Morgan billboard. Wait a minute, I thought they were with me. Now they're with them. Now they're with everybody. But we've looked at it, and really how we kind of came with the kind of leaning more into the sports marketing. Is, I don't look at the enemy as other law firms when it comes to marketing. I still look at it as a guy I'm going against in the courtroom. And that's, Allstate and State Farm and USAA and these firms. And where are they spending the money? They're spending it at these ballparks and on these players and on these deals. Patrick Mahomes is, I think, representing like 3 insurance companies. Now, the guy's always on TV. But it didn't deter, the main thing I took from that was just because Allstate was marketing at Raymond James Stadium, USAA was still marketing there too. Progressive was still marketing there too. So even if another law firm or another team kind of sees it, it's just, I think they now know this is just marketing. This is what big companies do, and Morgan & Morgan's a national big company.
How can the personal injury attorneys listening get in touch with you, and what's next for Morgan & Morgan?
Absolutely, yeah. So my role now is actually I'm the head of our referrals, inbound, outbound, and I do all of our out-of-market marketing as well. Definitely reach out to me. My email is easy, dmorgan@forthepeople.com. Again, dmorgan@forthepeople.com, pretty easy. And then also I'm on Instagram, Dan Morgan ESQ. You can DM me on there as well. But really what's next, is we really want to keep growing this referral network. We're marketing nationally now. So there's tons of cases that are coming in outside of our markets that we're in. So we're trying to grow those networks, be able to refer those cases in or out. And then, we have eyes on other markets to launch too. Like we actually launched Vegas this month. So you'll see us a lot more in Vegas, boots on ground attorneys. The goal is to, keep slowly taking over the world.
Thanks so much to Dan Morgan for sharing his wisdom today. Let's hit the takeaways. Time for the pinpoints. Specialize for success. Morgan & Morgan lawyers focus on specific legal niches, becoming true subject matter experts. The firm also evaluates each attorney's abilities, playing to their strengths. Don't be afraid to shuffle talent to match skill sets. Properly aligning talent allows everyone to excel.
You might think you're a great pitcher, but I hate to tell you, you're a third baseman, and we're going to move you over to the hot corner, and that's where you're going to be. And they moan at first, and all of a sudden they go over there, and they're doubling their fees after a year, and they're loving life a lot more. And the next thing you know, they're off and running.
Stand out. Remember Seth Godin's purple cow idea? By breaking with the pack, you stand out and stick in people's minds. Morgan & Morgan embraces buzzworthy marketing like viral graffiti billboards to captivate audiences. The goal is to be memorable, not fade into the background. To scale up, your marketing must break through the noise.
Every Tuesday from 5 to 6, sometimes it goes longer. It's really just throwing out these different ideas, and we roundtable it and we kick it around, and then we kind of, it's called the purple cow meeting, when people see something and it kind of sticks with them.
Streamlined intake. With over 500 call center staff tackling 2.5 million calls yearly, Morgan & Morgan has streamlined intake for success. Their efficient process lets them smoothly handle high call volumes. If you want to grow, streamline your systems.
We find people all the time, it could just be someone that's angry that day and they're just pressing call disconnect halfway through a call because they're done doing a sign up and it's a qualified case. So having layered management to check, why is agent A have an average call time of 2 minutes and everyone else is at 5.5 minutes? Let's go pull her calls. Oh, something's going on. Her phone's not, there's a manual disconnect going on. Just stuff like that. So always having systems in place to be able to canvass and make sure it's being run efficiently.
For more information about Dan Morgan and Morgan & Morgan, check out the show notes. While you're there, please hit that follow button so that you never miss an episode of Personal Injury Mastermind with me, Chris Stryer, founder and CEO of Rankings.io. All right, everybody, thanks for hanging out. See you next time. I'm out.